Hello, everybody. All right. Sorry, I know there's a lot of racket going on in the background. That'll stop here in just a second. All right. I do believe we are good. We are live. We have sound. We have camera. So let's get started, shall we? That's a sneak peek for a card. I realized at the very last second that while I had said that we are going to do 2 Christmas cards, it wasn't 2 Christmas cards that I had prepped, so I was doing something last second to get made for you guys. So we're going to do our Christmas cards last, but we are going to have 2 Christmas cards today and 2 other cards. All right, let's start with this one. You are going to want your chamois for this one. So I'm going to have this handy. So I keep this wet in one of the DVD cases, and I wash it out every now and again when it gets kind of full, and it will stain. Yours will stain as you use it. It still works. Like, there's no color coming up on my fingers. It is clean, even if it doesn't look like it. So let me show you. Make sure my fingers are dry before I do any touching of the cards. So this actually is going to be our first card. I apologize for any noises there. Okay. So this is, it's going to be a double card because it is so easy to do. And we're going to do some random stamping. And for me, that's easier to do on a slightly larger piece than what I need, but not necessarily a full 8.5 by 11. So if you think you can do it on an 8.5 by 11, go for it. And then you can get 2, 4, 6 cards out of it if you change the dimensions ever so slightly. And I'll actually even tell you what those are. So our pieces, we have a white piece that is 3 by 11. So again, if you are going to random stamp the whole thing, don't cut that down just yet, okay? And then we have some other pieces. This is 1 by just under 4. That part I have cut long. I do have a full 11-inch piece. I have some smaller pieces. Those are 1/4 inch by more than 5.5. Doesn't have to be a whole lot more, but needs to be more than. All right, so I have my 3 by 11. I have my 2 envelopes. I have my card bases, which are thick white card bases, and then I have 2 pieces for the inside that are 4 by 5.25. All right. We are going to be using the Maple Leaf from the Autumn to Remember set. And we're going to stamp a lot of things all at the same time. So I'm going to move our cards 100% out of the way, and let me show you the inside of that one and then the inside of this one. Okay. So if you want, we're just going to do it this way. If you want to do it a different way, you can do it a different way. So for our prepping, we want to open up our envelopes and put some post-it notes, or you can use masking tape or post-it tape or whatever you would like. You could use washi tape, any number of things. And we're going to ready all of this at one time so that we can minimize the number of times we have to clean our stamp. Okay. The next thing that we are going to do is temporarily tape our envelopes together. Okay, so this is our flap on both sides. This is the front of our envelope. Okay. So we are going to set aside our 1/4 inch strips and our 1 inch strip for the moment. And we need, sorry, my inks are off to the side over here. We are going to use crushed curry, garden green, Cajun craze, and copper clay inks. Going to grab a sheet for our scratch paper. All right, so we're going to start with our crushed curry. Try to get everything arranged neatly here. All right. We are going to rotate our image, and we're going to work our way down the paper. And we're going to differ our stamp. So the first one was mostly on, the second one was about half off, the third one is more than fully on, and then the fourth one we're just going to do from the very bottom. Okay, so that's that piece. Let's bring in our insides. Had a few extra pieces there. And we are going to stamp both of these at the same time. Okay, so one piece has the top of the leaf and the other has the bottom. Okay, set that aside, bring in our envelope. And we're going to do kind of that same theory, twisting and turning and whatnot. We're going to stamp 3 times. And we may need to come back in a little bit later and fill in a little bit. So we're going to stamp off and then clean off. And I tend to pat mine in my palm to make sure that there is no more water on my stamp itself. Right. Come back in. This time we have our green. And we're just going to do the same thing as before, but we're going to change our positioning a little bit. And it is quite okay for some of these to overlap. In fact, it is quite encouraged. All right, so we are going to swap our ends for stamping, right? We did the other ones the first time. This time we are going to do the opposite. We're going to rotate. And these don't have to be lined up when you stamp them. We're just making good use of our stamp time. So right now I could just kind of copy what we did with the crushed curry. Then we are going to repeat that 2 more times. So this is copper clay. So if I have the tail end on one side, on the piece on the opposing side, I try to have the opposite end, if that makes sense. And so I think for these ones, I'll do them side by side instead of ends together. And Cajun Craze. Ooh. We have these here already. Might as well just stick with it. All right, our insides are done. Now we clearly do not have room for this color to be stamped 3 times. So we'll call, well, let's add just a couple leaves pointing out. Like that. Okay. So there are our envelopes done. I think I'm going to fill in this corner up here. Perfect. Okay, that is all of the stamping with those colors. Now we're going to cut this in half at 5.5. And now we have 2 pieces that you can do whichever way you'd like. Okay, now we need to, uh-oh, no. Okay, one of my pieces fell down. the wrong size. Okay, so this is our 1-inch piece. We're going to bring in our powder. Our sentiment stamp, which is from Simply Zinnia. And our Versamark. Now, before you stamp on your piece that's already cut, take note of your stamp. My G is actually closer to the edge here than my E is, so I need to make sure to stamp accordingly. So that we can stamp straight. Or at least attempt to. I'll go ahead and use the back side of this, and we are going to use the metallic copper embossing powder. I found tapping with my bone folder works so much better than my fingers. Now I have some, it looks like there was probably a hair, there is a hair on my stamp set. I think it's gone, which is good. We do need to stamp it one more time. So if you have stray embossing powder, you can easily use a piercing tool I cannot quite tell if that is a hair actually on. On my project, or what exactly? Okay. And then the stuff at this end, because it's not really near any letters, I can just brush off with a paintbrush. And this paintbrush, the only thing I use it for is embossing powder. Okay. So we're gonna kind of do two things at once. So I have a different scratch paper. I have one of my pieces. I said they were I said they were 1/4, but they're actually 3/8. And let's see, I need to make sure, okay, that that's long enough. And we're just going to take our Versamark and ink up our paper. Now, if you wanted, you could do this in gold instead of copper, and you could just use foil paper. But I didn't want to use that much foil paper right, because it's just a little bit for these cards. If I were going to make a whole bunch of them, 100%, I would probably just use the gold foil paper. But seeing as I'm only using this tiny little bit, this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to heat these, and I am going to repeat the process once it's done. So I'm going to heat this up underneath my desk so it's a little bit quieter. Hello, Rhonda. I hadn't looked up yet. Thank you so much. 6 stampings. I did that. I've done that so many times. So many times. Alright, the warmer you can get your embossing tool, I probably should call it that instead of what we like to call it. Getting it nice and hot will give a better look overall to your project. So let's heat this up. Let's try not to blow things away. Remember a few weeks ago when I did that and I set my gun down, or my heat tool down, and went to use it again and it wouldn't work? I figured out why. It was because I had set it down with the air export side, the side the air comes out of, against my desk, and so it thought it was overheating. And so it has a built-in safety feature, which is nice. Oh, that was so close to having no extras. Rhonda, I've missed you. I'm glad to have you back. Wouldn't be a Thursday video if Otis didn't show up, right? So I know that my embossing long pieces are longer than my card, but I would rather that than them be too short. Excuse me. Thursday does seem to be a popular day for classes, that's for sure. Okay, heat this up again. Okay, so my desk is warm. This, while metallic, they are not very smooth looking, and I'm not sure if that comes across on video, but we are going to add one more layer of embossing powder to them. I'm not quite sure why one is curved and one is not. It is the same weight paper. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. Alright. This one, our gun is already fairly warm. I really have to stop saying that word. So we don't need to heat it up. Okay, and I just noticed, I don't know if you can see it, I have there's some heated embossing powder. Anyway, so we now have, it's much more smooth. So the first layer, it kind of looks like it's pitted kind of like a rusted metal would be. And then the second layer kind of fills all of that in and everything melts together, so it's a much smoother. If I added another layer, it would be even smoother still. When you are heating it, you want to you want to be slow but quick. It's really difficult to explain, and I know it doesn't show up very well on camera, but it will melt, and while it'll be fully melted, it won't be fully mixed. So as you're moving, you want to continuously move, but you want to do it at a slow pace so that you can use the front end of your heat circle to melt your powder and the back half of your heat circle to smooth out what's already melted. And so it's just a constant movement, but you don't want to do this when you're heating up your stuff, because that will not get you the result you are looking for. Okay, so we are going to trim this really quick. We will be making another trim on that. And then this one, my paper is torn at the end. So we're going to make that straight first, and then we're going to do a quick banner cut. And ditto on this other piece. All right, let's make that a little bit shorter. Quick banner cut. Okay, so we are going to, you know what, let's do our insides first. Right, because then we have one part that is done. Done. Now if you would rather do a strip on the inside instead of stamping the edges like we did, you could cut off a 1/4 inch from your 11-inch piece. So it would be then 2 3/4 by 11, and then cut it into 5 1/2. And I didn't do the math, I believe. Okay, let me verify. I did say this was 3, right? Yeah. So I believe my math is correct. If you do these at 2 3/4 instead of 3, 2 3/4, 2 3/4 is 4 5 1/2. 2 3/4, 6 7 8 1/2. I think that makes 8 1/2. So that would be how you could get 6 cards out of one sheet of 8 1/2 by 11. All right, so decide which way you want up and which way you want down. And then run some adhesive. I grabbed the Seal Plus. Now you could use the liquid glue here. I just want a faster hold for our foil. So it doesn't have to be Seal Plus. It could be Seal, it could be Seal Plus, it could be Tear and Tape. It could be kind of whatever you wanted it to be. And then we're just going to trim these off. And I did make it long on both ends on purpose so that it would look nice and neat on the top and bottom. We are going to line up at the top and leave anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch on this left side. Okay, almost done. And then you just need to decide how much space you want over here. So I'm just going to make a quick mark with my pencil. Okay, this one, I don't like how much powder is here at the end, so I can just make this be shorter. There, now it doesn't look quite so crunchy. I am lining these up to the edge of our leaf print paper. Eraser real quick, make sure I don't have any marks still there. And then pop these up. use every bit because it would be silly not to. All right. And voila. You have 2 cards for the price of one. Not really the price of one, obviously, but you're not doing a ton of extra work for that second card. So, it makes it nice and easy. The inside is pretty. The envelopes are pretty. It's all good. Okay, let's make card number 2. Move this box out of the way. Okay, this one is a little bit more involved, but I hope that you will think it's worth it. Right? Cute. It opens up like this, and there's a gift card slot. How super fun is that? And it's so easy. So easy. Okay. So we have our envelope. Our card base. So 5.5 by 8.5. It is scored at 4 1/4. Okay, we don't need to. We have a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of white. We have, where's my sheet? Three and 7/8 by 2 and 7/8. 3 and 7/8 by 2 and 3/8. 2 pieces of white that are 2.5 by 4, and a scrap that's large enough to do our die cutting and such. So let's do some of our stamping. So we need Sending Thanks and Much Love, which comes from Winterly Treetops. So cute. And then we need Pumpkin Spice from More Than Autumn. It's that coffee set. You guys know I love my coffee sets. Okay, we are also going to use the coffee cup, go figure, the whipped cream, and an empty block, and I'll show you why. The pumpkin and the straw. Now you can leave out the straw if you don't want to do the straw. It's fine. Okay. So now, some of this I have done in advance. And some of it I will need to do still. So I have stamped my coffee cup and the whipped cream. Right, I wanted to save a little bit of time at least because we have things to do. So we need our sending thanks, and obviously we are changing the and. So instead of and much love, it's going to be and pumpkin spice. And we are going to mask that off with some washi. Okay. So we need our memento. Sorry. Oh, our Cajun craze. That's weird. Why is that not inking up? There we go. I know that my stamp and my sticker are crooked, and so I tried having this die cut and stamping on it, and I could not for the life of me get it lined up. So you get to watch me die cut it. Sorry, but that's the way that is. All right. I did say that you're not going to watch me do the whipped cream, but we do actually need the tiny little top. For the whipped cream. Okay. We need our pumpkin. On our coffee cup, and we also need it on our envelope. So we're going to do one little guy down here in the corner, and then one here in the center of our flap. Okay. We need one straw. Alright, we are done with the black for this card. Sending thanks and pumpkin spice. Is that a little bit higher than I wanted it? Yep, but that's okay. It still looks good. Okay. We are going to take our little block, and this is an old Close to My Heart block. That's okay. You can just do the corner. Like if this is the smallest block you have, you can just do a corner. You can squeeze it into your lid if you'd like. I don't like to do it that way for a couple different reasons, but we can get into those later. Excuse me. So I have a water brush, a water painter with no water, and a water painter with water. I know, it sounds counterintuitive. I have found that they do leak is not quite the right word, but they do continuously allow the water to come out, and I wanted a nice super pigmented color, so I didn't want a ton of water, so I had just 1 drop of water, and I am mixing in all of that ink, and I am just going to paint my cup. You don't need to be super worried about the lip, because we are going to cover that with the whipped cream. I mean, you do probably want to get up onto it, of course, but all right, I'm going to add 1 more drop. So that our pumpkin can be a slightly different color than our cup. And then we are going to color our straw as well. Okay. That is it for our coloring with the water brush. Oh, not true, because I forgot the pumpkins on our envelope. Alright, do we have any water in here, or color in here still? I bet we do. Look at that, we do. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color to our pumpkins. Voila. Okay. That does need to be cleaned out, but I will do that later. So our envelope is done. Okay. One last bit of coloring, and then we can do our die cutting. I have the light gray granite, and I am just going to add a smidge of shading on our whipped to do this one as well. It didn't stamp very well down here. That is quite alright, because we literally are going to be cutting that off. So that is all that coloring we're doing. Okay, time to cut. We are going to use the Everyday Details dies. We are going to use the smallest circle and the middle square from this die set, and then we are going to use the straw, the whipped cream, the baby whipped cream, and the cup. So we are going to line this up so it is straight, or at least straight-ish. Nope, wrong one. We just want the little bitty baby one. Okay, we're going to set the circle one to the side because we don't need it just yet. And I stamped those just slightly too close together. Okay. We're just going to use our baby boss for this real quick. Slide all of that over. So we can run this one through. Do you guys talk to your projects too? I do it all the time. Usually when they are misbehaving, unfortunately. all those there. Okay. So let's go ahead and build up our pieces here. So we're going to put a little baby dimensional. We're going to actually stick the straw out the other side this time. Over here. I think I'm actually going to make it shorter. I stabbed my own thumb here. Alright. So because I want it to not show, there we go. I am hiding it between the whipped cream. Right, because our tiny little dollop, isn't that just so cute? It's made so you can do like this, or you can use it on the pie. It's perfect on the pie. And then I'm just going to add a thin line of glue on the very top of the cup. And attach our whipped cream. See, now this way our straw isn't sticking out back here on the whipped cream. And you'll be able to see, just a little bit of it. Okay. So we're going to wait to peel those off. All right. Almost time to put stuff together. We need to bring in our base. Now you are going to, let me double check, measure, make sure my brain is not faulty. Yep. All right. This is going to sound backwards and weird, I know. You're going to cut down 2 3/4 inches on your spine. Okay. That part, not necessarily so wacky just yet. All right, so we're going to line up. And if you are using the Stampin' Up! Trimmer, you do have measurements on this side, so you can see, and there's a little arrow on your blade, so you can line that up. Okay. And then, and you can do this in the opposite order if you'd like. So, we cut this way, right? We are going to rotate so that our doing mental origami in my head. All right, so we're going to rotate it so that our cut is on the left side. And we're going to line up at 2 3/4. And we're going to score down to that cut line. Or down to the already scored line slash cut line. Okay, so we have a score line here, and this was all score, and then we added a cut. So score, cut, intersection. Okay, now what we're going to do, we want to trim a little bit of this off so it doesn't interfere. So I'm not sure if you can tell, but when I cut, my score line is attached on this piece. So the bump that my score line created is over here. So I'm going to trim that off. So you can use your paper trimmer, oops, or you can use scissors. Either way works just fine. And I did not cut deep enough, so that just is kind of shredding. So let's go in with our scissors. You're like, Michelle, this isn't weird yet. It will be. Now we're going to bring in this die, and we are going to line it up not more than halfway. You can be less, but you don't want that circle to close back in because we are going to create this little hole right here. Okay, so halfway and center and all that jazz. Use your washi in the center of your circle so you don't accidentally tear any of your paper. Okay. And then run that through your machine. You will need to use your larger machine. Now, if you have a punch, you could easily use a punch. You could use a smaller circle. You could use a whole different shape. All of that is up to you. Right? I'm not even going to send it all the way through. I just need that little bit cut off. Okay. Now, we're going to flip this over. And we're going to fold this up on that score. And that should line up perfectly. Okay. So now, so we started here, we folded up. right? You are less likely to distort your fold that way. So if we rotate it, we're back to normal movement. So before you glue anything down, check and see. So clearly, mine is distorted, okay? There is too much still on this piece. Even though I cut some of that off, I need to cut off a little bit more. Okay, so now when I close it, it closes fully. There is still a bit of a gap, and that is mostly because I've not burnished it and it's not been glued closed yet. Okay, so you have a couple different options. You can use your tear and tape, or you can use some liquid glue. The tear and tape does give a solid seal, but it does take away a good chunk. You can see maybe where there's kind of that crease there. That's because this one uses tear and tape, and that meant I did have to make this white piece smaller so it would fit, because it takes up some space. So this one, we're just going to use some Tombow glue. And we're just going to do a thin line on those two outside edges. Okay, so this one seals it here, and this will seal it down here. Obviously, we don't want to seal this close because then we wouldn't be able to use it. Okay, so I would like to just going to place a couple of blocks on it, let it sit there, and we can finish up our other pieces. Okay, envelope is already done. So our larger piece we are going to put on our white piece. So this paper comes from the Iconic Celebrations 6x6 DSP pack. And I thought it was so perfect for this. Okay, so there's that piece. One of these white pieces is for the inside of that pocket, and one is for the outside of that pocket. Okay, let's go ahead and add our sentiment on here. Just going to center that. Okay. bring this back down. We can do the inside still. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. This will be centered on our little pocket. And then our little pumpkin spice cup. You can put it standing up straight, or you can have it tilted a little bit. I like the playfulness that just that tiny little tilt adds. And just like that, our card is actually done. So this will fit inside. I don't want to force it too much because that glue isn't completely dry. I probably will trim this down just a hair, like maybe 1/8 of an inch, for it to fit in there super nicely. But you can see it fits in there just like that. If I pull this one out, you can see it fits in there nicely. And you can see with it being lined up at the top how much space there is. And about half of this space is actually not glued, so you would be able to use most of this. Like I said, maybe 1/8 of an inch off. Now for your cards, you can use glue dots, or you can use a bit of the green glue. Just do 2 drops on, thin drops, don't make them thick, on your card and let that air dry. And then when that's dry, it becomes a repositionable glue dot. That piece tore because it's already torn a couple different times with me taking things on and off. So that is card number 2. Super cute and fun, right? You could easily change this up to be a different paper, like one of the papers from this Take a Bow, right? It would be super cute with any of them. So those are all the fronts. Here are the backs, or vice versa. Right, you could make a bunch. There's 48 sheets in here, so you could make 48 cards from this pack using this design, and you'd have some leftovers. They wouldn't be very large pieces, but there would be leftovers. Okay. Move some things out of the way. Now, it is time for our first Christmas card. Sorry, I needed a quick drink. Thank you, Rhonda. I think they're adorable. All right. This one is going to be another 2-for-1. And I've pre-done some of it because I knew that we would have a lot of cards today. So, take a look at these. This technically is a 4-for-1. You can get 4 of this size with some leftovers out of 1 sheet of this paper, and this is the Take a Bow paper, whatever. And then is it 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. You can get 4, but the direction will change a little bit. Like if you're using the straight paper, so you'll get 3 of them this way and then 1 of them from this other piece, so you have to rotate, so it'll be a different direction, which is why I changed 1 of them. So you can make all 4 of these cards with 2 pieces of one of these designs. Okay, and this is just a front and back. 2, 4. No, just 2 1/3 of these. So you can make 3 of them with 2 sheets. So, not too shabby at all. I'm not sure if you can tell, but this one, our embossing sticks up. And this one, our embossing sticks down. There, you can kind of see right there. You can do either way. So let's go ahead and make them. So I did glue the envelopes already, right? Because you've already seen me do that in the past. Not necessarily today, but all right. So we have cut down our card base to be 4 by 5.5. I was going to have our piece stick off just a little bit. So if you wanted it to make it regular size, you could. You need to change some of the other measurements. So just cut down your card base. You'll be good. Okay. So we have 3 3/4 by 5 1/4 white for the inside. We have 3 1/2 by 5 for the front. We have 1 3/4 by 3 1/2 also for the front. We have these real red cardstock strips that are 1/8 of an inch. We have a 1/2 inch by, I think it's probably 4 because I forgot to cut it down. For the inside, we have 2 in case we need to restamp for each of these cards, and then 1 from Real Red. And of course our envelope pieces. Alright, so they are the same for both. The only difference is going to be the stamp that we use, because I couldn't decide. So I don't know if you noticed, but one is Be Merry and one is Believe. And then what I didn't show you is we actually do have a stamp on the inside as well. So let's go ahead and stamp. So going to stick with our color and use Real Red. Perfect. So these would be fun, super easy Christmas cards to send out. Super easy to make. You can get a lot of them from very little. Fabulous. Yay, it's straight. Awesome. Okay, closing the ink pad. That's all the stamping for this card. That's awesome, right? Alright, so let's do some gluing. So we don't need those. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with this green glue since we have it out. All right. Trim those suckers off. And then into the cards they go. So you guys will have to tell me, have you started making any of your Christmas cards yet? Okay, so now this piece I did already emboss. I do need to emboss this piece. I could have done that in advance, but I didn't. I didn't want to do too much, right? Because the whole point of the video is to show you all how to do things in mostly real time, right? I do have some things prepped here and there. Mostly because if I didn't, we would be here all night long. And I have had some people tell me that my live videos are already too long. So we don't need to make them any longer, right? So this is the Snowflake Sky 3D embossing folder. All right, so what? So this embossing folder has snowflakes are heavier at one end than they are at the other, so you can see it's fuller up here than it is down here. And So I am putting our DSP at the lighter end of the snowflake coverage. Okay, so now I'm going to run a thin line that is not thin enough. Alright, that one's a slight bit messy, but I've showed you the trick in the past where if you are using this glue and you let it dry after you have attached your piece, then you will be able to use an eraser to take off anything that is still sticky that you don't want to be. Okay, we're gonna let those dry for a few moments. We're gonna bring our scissors in and we are going to snip these. We're just going to follow the lines that are already there, and it gives us these fun little points. Okay, just like that. And honestly, this is the longest part of this whole card. I do flip mine upside down. I find it easier to line up on those opposite direction ones. But if you find that makes it more difficult for you, then don't do it that way. All right. And then just line these up on the center of our red ones. They should be symmetrical, so it should be super easy to line them up. we are going to pop these babies up. So I do not remember if I told you that these panels are actually thick white cardstock. They don't necessarily need to be. When I'm doing a white on white card, I do tend to make it be the thick white cardstock. Let's use these big pieces. You'll have to tell me, friends, what do you call these pieces? Do you call them edges? Do you call them bones? Do you call them, what do you call them? As long as you don't call them garbage, we can be friends. Because if you just throw these pieces away, you can just put them in an envelope with my name on them and send them my way. I'll use them. I mean, honestly, I don't think anybody who watches my videos does that, but, you know. Gotta put it out there just to make sure. Alright. I do love how easy these backings come off, though. It's amazing. Even on the strip pieces, they come off super easy. Make sure the right piece is glued to the right piece. The hardest part is centering it, and that's not necessarily super hard. Okay, and last step. We are attaching maybe come on now. So, I'm going to do the opposite. Although, the bleed does fit better on the stripes. But I mean, Be Merry doesn't not fit on the stripes. Right? And we are just centering these. And that, friends, is 4 cards for 2 1/3 sheets of 6x6 paper. Okay. So normally that would be the end of our video, but we have one more video. Not one more video, one more card. Since we did not get a chance to do one last week. Okay. So for this card, we have our card base. And I do not have an envelope, so you'll have to bear with me. We have cherry cobbler. That is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. We have white that is 4 by 5 1/4. We actually have 2 of those. Okay, we have three by 4 1/4 cherry cobbler again. Now you could cut that out of the center here to say paper if you wanted to. So this is going to be 2 7/8 by 4 1/8. We have 1/2 inch by 4 for the inside. We have a hexagon from the Sentimental Park dies. We have some greenery, and not green greenery, from Golden Greenery. And then we have our sentiment from Peaceful Season. And then we're going to do one more bit of embossing with the Exposed Brick 3D embossing folder. So we are going to do that with our white piece. Where you put it is not important. Having it straight is more important. Rhonda, I'm behind on reading, and I read your comment, and I'm like, what the heck? Foam edges? What? And then I realized that's because I asked. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, let's stamp our sentiment so that can be drying. So our wood pieces here are from Country Woods DSP pack. So I will say I do have about 90% of this card done. That stamp, it is what it is. We're going to leave it like that. All right, gluing. We are gluing together some pieces here. Rhonda, I bet your class will be So fun. All right, we are gluing our corresponding layers together. Doing it in this order gives them a few moments to dry between, and so that will help your card into your pieces not buckling with the liquid glue. So amount is number one. Number two is burnishing to spread out that amount of liquid glue. Number three is doing sets so they can have a chance to dry between. All right. Rhonda's trying to use up her close to my heart paper. I do not blame you one single bit. Okay, so obviously our largest layer will go on first. And you will see these are very, very small borders. I'm going to burnish on the inside so I don't press down that embossing that we've done. Now you could pop up this layer. I'm not going to. I will probably pop up that sentiment a little bit though. Alright, just right in the center. The Silver Bells bulk, didn't that have the gray piece with the kind of garland on the one side? That side always made me think of lights for like outdoors lights, like summertime picnics even. So if you need other ideas for that, that would be another idea for you. Alright, so this is going to go here. We've now reached where I had gotten done. I kind of like the hearts one because it's talking about friends and family. Right? Wouldn't you agree? Okay, we're going to need to do something down there, but I like this. I'm going to move this over so I don't have that bottom peeking through. Alright, I'm folding it just because I know this is not going to be seen, and that way it still stays right where I want it to. I'm just folding the stock that's going to be underneath everything. Putting one dot on each leaf, each center of the leaves, and then I can just fold this back over. Okay, so put some blocks on that. Let's put some dimensionals on here. Thanks, Rhonda. Okay. Now, if you wanted to, you could 100% cut these out of green paper, gold foil paper. You could emboss them like we did that first card earlier. That would be super cute. Heck, you could even do multicolor embossing. I have one bell. I don't think I have the larger bell cut, although I probably there somewhere. Let's go ahead and stamp that. Oh, look, there's the larger one right there. Nope. I think if I had two smaller ones, it would be fine, but we are not going to take all day. So we have smaller bell and smaller bell detail. Let's just use these. I'd rather not, but the other blocks, I did not line that up very well at all. Okay. So let's close this one before we do it on our die cut. Nope. There we go. I was trying to line it up too high. Flap. Either way, it would look super fabulous. So, on that note, let's see if we can fit our cards in. So we have that one, and we have this one. And we have these two. And we have these two. They don't fit very well with it zoomed in as far as it is, but those are our cards for today. I am getting a message on my YouTube. I don't know why. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you guys being here, either with me live or watching on the replay. I love you either way. Thank you. Please, if you would be so kind as to give me a thumbs up and maybe even share the video with other crafty people or crafty groups. I would really appreciate it. And that shows YouTube that you do like seeing what I'm putting out there and you find it fun and inspiring and all those super good things. Rhonda, thank you so much for being here with me live tonight, and thank you for loving my cards. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see how this inspires you all, Christmas cards or otherwise. I would love to see what you do, so tag me in your post or send me a picture or comment on the video or any of the things that you could do. I would love to see it. So thank you again so much, everybody, and I will see you next week with more cards.